The day Earth changed forever was sunny and clear in the Nevada desert. Lieutenant John Miller stood among a group of nervous military personnel, watching the sky with his hand shielding his eyes from the bright sun. Intelligence reports had given them 48 hours notice that something was coming, something not from Earth. There, someone whispered, pointing upward. A dark shape appeared high above, growing larger as it descended. It didn't look like any aircraft John had ever seen. The object was smooth, almost pearl-like, with no visible engines or wings. Yet it moved with purpose, slowing as it approached the makeshift landing area. General Clark stepped forward. "Remember your training, people. First contact protocol. No sudden movements, no weapons raised unless I give the command." John nodded, though his hand stayed close to his sidearm. 6 years in the Navy had taught him to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. The alien ship. Because that's what it had to be. Touched down with barely a sound. For 30 long seconds nothing happened. Then, a seam appeared in its side, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, and shapes moved within. The first alien stepped onto Earth soil. It was tall and slender, with pale blue skin that seemed almost translucent. Its forearms moved with graceful precision as it adjusted something on its chest, a device that glowed softly. Behind it came 3 more creatures, similar but with subtle differences in height and skin tone. They all wore what looked like thin bodysuits and breathing masks that covered the lower portions of their faces. "Welcome to Earth," General Clark said, stepping forward with his hands open at his sides. The lead alien tilted its head, then spoke. The sound was like flowing water, impossible for human ears to comprehend. But the device on its chest flickered, and then words emerged. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation. I am Ambassador Colleen of the Veldari." John felt his heart racing. This was real. Actual aliens, right in front of him. The ambassador took a step forward and stumbled slightly. One of its companions quickly moved to steady it. "Forgive me," the translation device said. "Your world's gravity is challenging." General Clark nodded. "Can we assist you in any way?" "We are adapting," Ambassador Colleen replied. "Our environmental suits are compensating, though not perfectly." As the initial greetings continued, John noticed the aliens' movements were careful and deliberate, as if they were constantly fighting against Earth's pull. When a breeze kicked up some dust, 2 of them flinched visibly. One of the aliens moved toward the edge of the landing area, taking readings with a handheld device. Its body language changed immediately, what John would interpret in a human as alarm. "Ambassador," it called out in its flowing language. "The radiation levels here are within dangerous parameters, and the atmospheric oxygen concentration," the ambassador turned to its companion, speaking rapidly. The translation device caught fragments. "Expected for a Class 5 Deathworld. Survival adaptations. Remarkable they've thrived." "Excuse me." Dr. Susan Miller, the chief scientist present, stepped forward. "Did you say Deathworld?" The ambassador's 4 hands made a gesture that might have been embarrassment. "A technical classification term. Please do not be concerned." But John could see the aliens' unease. They moved like people walking on thin ice, expecting danger at every step, on what seemed to him a perfectly pleasant spring day. Later, after formal introductions were complete and the delegation moved toward the temporary structures set up for meetings, John overheard 2 of the aliens speaking, their translation devices momentarily inactive. "How do they survive here?" one asked. "The gravity alone would crush our bones in weeks." "Evolution is remarkable," the other replied, "but I've never imagined visiting a Class 5 before. No wonder they're built like living tanks." John looked down at his own body, perfectly normal to him, and for the first time wondered how his home must appear to creatures from gentler worlds. Earth apparently was considered a place of deadly extremes, and that made humans something extraordinary in the galaxy, something potentially frightening. The diplomatic talks began that afternoon, but nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity, had just learned they were the monsters who lived on a world where other species feared to tread. Dr. Lisa Bennett pressed her face against the viewing port of the human transport ship, staring in wonder at the massive structure growing larger before them. The Confederation hub was unlike anything humans had ever built. A spinning wheel, of metal and light at least 50 miles across, orbiting a small yellow star. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Captain Frank Howard nodded beside her. As commander of Earth's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Confederation, he carried the weight of humanity on his shoulders. "Remember, everyone stays in pairs." "No, wandering off alone," he reminded the 12-person delegation. The ship docked with surprising gentleness. Lisa felt the slight bump, then heard the hiss of the airlock equalizing. She checked her datapad one last time, reviewing the information about the 37 known species in the Confederation. "Ready?" Frank asked. She nodded, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. The doors opened, and the human delegation stepped into the hub for the first time. Lisa gasped. The ceilings soared hundreds of feet above them. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved through the vast chamber. Some floated on cushions of air, others crawled on multiple legs, while some appeared to swim through special liquid-filled channels along the walls. A group of blue-skinned Veldari approached, Ambassador Colleen at their front. "Welcome to the Confederation Hub," Colleen said through the translator. "We have prepared accommodations suited to your unique physiological needs." As they followed the Veldari through the hub, Lisa noticed other aliens stepping back, creating a wide path for the humans to walk through. Some pointed or made gestures to companions, others simply stared. "They're afraid of us," whispered Sam Green, another scientist on the team. Lisa realized he was right. The body language was unmistakable across species. They were being treated with caution like dangerous animals. Their quarters were surprisingly heavy and solid compared to structures they passed. The doors were thicker, the walls reinforced. "These are safety quarters," Colleen explained, "adapted to Earth normal conditions. The gravity is set to your standard. The air mixture has been adjusted to your requirements." "Safety quarters?" Frank asked. "Yes, for species from challenging environments." Later that day, Lisa attended her first scientific exchange with researchers from 12 different worlds. The meeting room was divided into sections, each with its own atmospheric controls and gravity settings. A small amphibious creature named Teller, who needed to keep its skin moist constantly, gave a presentation on comparative planetary development. The images on the display showed world after world with strikingly similar characteristics: low gravity, stable tectonics, mild temperature ranges, and low radiation levels. "Excuse me," Lisa raised her hand. "Are all Confederation worlds so gentle?" The room went quiet. Teller's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Most habitable worlds fall within Class 1 to Class 3 parameters," Teller explained. "Environments where carbon-based life can evolve without extreme adaptive pressures." "And Earth?" Lisa asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Earth is a Class 5 Deathworld," Teller said, speaking the words carefully. "One of only 3 known inhabited worlds in that classification, and the only one to produce spacefaring life." The room remained silent. Lisa saw the other scientists studying her with new interest. "What makes a world Class 5? She asked. Teller displayed a new chart. "High gravity, extreme weather fluctuations, tectonic instability, high radiation levels, atmospheric oxygen sufficient to support enormous fires, large temperature variations, abundant predatory life forms, persistent dangerous microorganisms." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. They were describing normal Earth conditions as if listing disasters. That evening, during dinner in their quarters, Frank received a message from the Confederation Council. "They've scheduled our membership hearing," he told the team. "But there's opposition from several species. They're concerned about humans joining." "Why?" Sam asked. Lisa looked at her hands, the hands of a creature evolved to survive on a world that most galactic species considered a nightmare. "Because they're realizing what we are," she said quietly. "Creatures who thrive in conditions that would kill most of them." We're Deathworlders. The word hung in the air. Earth's normal was the galaxy's extreme, and that made humans something the Confederation had rarely encountered before, survivors from a world that should have been too harsh for intelligent life to develop. The implications were just beginning to unfold. 6 months after Earth joined the Confederation, Amy Rodriguez became the first human to work on an alien vessel. The cargo ship Starlight Wind had lost 2 crew members to illness, and Amy's piloting skills made her the perfect replacement. At least that's what Captain Ziv told her. Amy knew the truth was simpler. Humans could work longer shifts than most species. They could also survive if life support partially failed. Deathworlders were valuable that way. She walked through the cargo hold, checking containers before their jump to the next system. The ship felt uncomfortably warm and the gravity was too light, set for the comfort of species from gentler worlds. Amy had grown used to floating rather than walking properly. "Human Rodriguez," a voice called. It was Talvi, the ship's navigator, a thin creature with golden fur and 6 limbs. "Just Amy is fine," she reminded him. After months together, the crew still treated her formally. "Human Amy." Talvi tried, his translator struggling with the concept of first names. "Captain Ziv asks if you will take us past the Outer Rim station. Our usual pilot refuses." Amy frowned. "The Outer Rim isn't on our route." Talvi's ears flattened against his head. "It is not. But Captain has business there." Later that day, Amy stood on the bridge as they approached the station. It was a dark, spinning cylinder near the edge of Confederation space. No markings, no identification signals. "What kind of station doesn't broadcast ID?" she asked Captain Ziv. The captain, whose species resembled something between a turtle and an octopus, moved his eye stalks uncomfortably. "One that watches the borders, human Amy." "Watches for what?" Before Ziv could answer, the communication system chimed. A hurried conversation followed in a language her translator couldn't catch. Amy noticed Talvi's golden fur standing on end. "What's going on?" she asked when the call ended. "Nothing to concern yourself with," Ziv said too quickly. "Routine trade matters." But Amy heard the fear in his voice. Later, she checked the star charts in her quarters. Beyond the Outer Rim lay systems not claimed by any Confederation species. Unknown space, or so she had thought. "Computer, show me species information for territory beyond the Outer Rim," she requested. The screen flashed. "Access restricted. Interesting." Amy used her pilot override codes, the ones meant for emergencies only. A single file appeared containing just one word: Krell. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lieutenant Nathan Kelly was having problems of his own. As part of the new exchange program, he was training with alien military officers. Today, they were practicing hand-to-hand combat techniques. "Remember," Instructor Venn said, "minimal contact only. Humans must be extremely careful." Nathan nodded, facing his opponent, a Dravak soldier named Cole. The Dravak were considered one of the tougher species, with thick scaly skin and powerful muscles evolved for a world with slightly higher gravity than most, though still much less than Earth's. "Begin," Venn called. Nathan moved carefully, demonstrating the defensive posture they had practiced. Cole attacked with what seemed like full force to the alien, but to Nathan felt like slow motion. He blocked easily, using what he thought was gentle pressure. Cole's arm made a cracking sound. The alien howled in pain. The training room erupted in chaos. Medics rushed forward while Nathan stood frozen in shock. "I barely touched him," he said as Instructor Venn approached. "You used enough force to break bone," Venn said quietly. "What is gentle to you is devastating to most species." That night, Nathan sat in the human quarters staring at his hands. A military officer named Greg Mitchell joined him. "Heard what happened," Greg said. "Not your fault." "I hurt him without even trying," Nathan replied. "They're all so breakable." Greg nodded. "That's why they're interested in us, haven't you noticed? Every training exercise tests our strength, our endurance, our ability to withstand pain." "What are you saying?" "They're not training with us," Greg said. "They're studying us as weapons." Nathan thought about the way the alien officers watched them during physical tests, how they measured everything from their lung capacity to their bone density. At the same moment, millions of miles away, Amy Rodriguez was sneaking into the cargo bay of the Starlight Wind, opening a container that shouldn't have been on their manifest. Inside were weapons far more advanced than anything humans possessed. Preparing for war, she whispered to herself. But against what? The answer came from the computer file she'd found earlier. Somewhere beyond Confederation space, something called the Krell was stirring, and the peaceful species of the Confederation were looking to Earth's Deathworlders to protect them when the storm broke. The message from Outpost Sentinel arrived in the middle of the night. Captain Frank Howard was woken by an urgent call to the communication center. "The outpost has gone dark," Admiral Lenzo said, his scaled face showing what Frank had learned to recognize as intense concern. "We need a team to investigate." Frank nodded. "My ship can be ready in 6 hours." "Good. You'll take 3 Confederation observers as well." "Sir, if there's danger..." They requested to join. Admiral Lenzo cut him off. "Science Officer Katie, Walsh from your planet will also accompany you. She has experience with Krell technology." 2 days later, the Earth ship Horizon approached the coordinates of Outpost Sentinel. The small research station orbited a lifeless moon near the border of Krell space. Katie Walsh stood on the bridge, her face grim as the station came into view. "No exterior damage," she observed. "No signs of weapons fire." "Life signs?" Frank asked. "None detected," replied Nev, one of the alien observers. The slender Trill's antennae twitched nervously. Frank ordered the ship to dock with the station. He selected a boarding team, himself, Katie, and 2 security officers. The Confederation observers insisted on joining despite his objections. The station was dark when they entered, emergency lights casting red shadows across empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed too loudly. "Air quality normal," Katie reported, checking her scanner. "No signs of conventional weapons. Temperature slightly elevated." They moved deeper into the station. In the main laboratory, they found the first bodies. 3 Confederation researchers lay where they had fallen. No wounds were visible. "What killed them?" Frank asked. Katie knelt beside one body, her scanner whirring. "Bioweapon. Very sophisticated. It targets specific neural pathways." "Krell," whispered Mira, one of the observers. "This is their signature." A sudden noise made them all turn. Something moved in the shadows at the far end of the lab. "Station should be empty," Frank said quietly, drawing his weapon. "Katie, get everyone back to the ship. I'll check." A blinding flash filled the room. Frank felt himself thrown backwards. Pain shot through his body as he slammed into a wall. Alarms blared. "Hull breach," someone shouted. Frank struggled to his feet, ears ringing. Through blurred vision, he saw the Confederation observers collapsed on the floor. Katie was still standing, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. A massive shape moved through the breach in the station wall. It was at least 7 feet tall, insectoid in appearance, covered in chitinous plating. "Krell," Katie gasped. Frank fired his weapon. The Krell soldier staggered but kept coming. More shapes appeared behind it. "Run!" Frank shouted, firing again. They fought their way back toward the airlock, dragging the unconscious observers. Warning lights flashed as the station's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Twice it cut out completely, then returned at double strength, crushing them to the floor. Katie screamed as her leg broke under the sudden pressure. Frank pulled her up, supporting her weight. "We can't leave them," Katie said, looking back at the observers. "They're dead," Frank replied grimly. "That last gravity surge crushed their internal organs." Katie looked shocked. "But you and I..." "Earth gravity is stronger than this. Our bodies can take it." They reached the airlock just as the station's life support failed completely. Warning signals showed radiation levels rising rapidly. The Krell were right behind them. "We'll never make it," Katie said, gasping for breath in the thinning air. Frank pulled her into the airlock and sealed it. "Yes, we will. Radiation won't kill us instantly. We've got minutes." "Minutes?" Katie laughed bitterly. "That's not enough. For Deathworlders? It's plenty." Frank activated the emergency launch sequence. Their suits would protect them for the short exposure to vacuum as they crossed to their ship. The radiation would make them sick later, but they'd survive. The airlock opened to empty space. Frank pushed them both out into the void between the station and their ship. Behind them, the station exploded as the Krell ship fired again. The shock wave hit them like a physical blow, sending them tumbling toward the darkness of open space. Frank's last conscious thought was reaching for the emergency beacon on his suit. Their ship was gone. The observers were dead. But somehow, he and Katie were still alive. The unexpected survivors of an attack that would have killed any other species in seconds. The galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous humans from Earth really were. Admiral Paul Wright stood in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center, watching as dozens of red dots appeared on the display. The Krell attack fleet had just emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit. "How long do we have?" he asked. 3 hours until they reach Earth, sir," replied Lieutenant Samantha Chen. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "Confederation allies are sending ships, but they won't arrive in time." Paul nodded grimly. When Katie Walsh and Frank Howard had returned with news of the Krell attack 2 weeks ago, Earth had begun preparing. But no one had expected the Krell to move so quickly. "Alert all defense platforms," Paul ordered, "and get me President Martinez." On the surface below, people looked up at the sky with fear and determination. News of the coming battle had spread quickly. Humans were facing their first interstellar war just 1 year after learning they weren't alone in the universe. Engineer Diane Carter worked frantically in her lab at the Los Angeles Space Defense Center. Around her, a team of human and alien scientists tested new shield modifications. "The standard Confederation shields can't withstand Krell weapons for more than 30 seconds, explained Zorn, a Veldari scientist. His blue hands shook slightly. "It's why they've been so successful in their attacks." Diane adjusted a setting on her prototype. "Earth buildings are designed to withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. We just need to apply the same principles to the shields. But the energy requirements will be enormous," Diane finished. "Good thing we're used to generating massive amounts of power on our Deathworld." 2 hours later, Admiral Wright watched as the last civilian evacuation ships departed from Earth's surface. Most people had moved into underground shelters built decades ago for disasters that had never come. Until now. "Krell fleet entering lunar orbit," Samantha announced. 63 ships detected. "Deploy defensive formation Alpha," Paul ordered. "All ships maintain position." Earth's combined fleet, hastily assembled from military and civilian vessels, moved into position. They were outmatched in both technology and numbers. But they had one advantage the Krell didn't expect. They were fighting to protect their home, their Deathworld. The first Krell shots lit up space like silent lightning. 3 Earth ships vanished instantly. The battle had begun. On the main Confederation defense station, Ambassador Colleen watched with the other diplomatic representatives as the attack unfolded. "Earth cannot possibly withstand this assault," said the Trill ambassador. "We should offer to negotiate with the Krell." "The Krell don't negotiate," Colleen replied. "That's why they targeted Earth first. They recognize humans as the biggest threat. Because they come from a Class 5 world? Because they are the only species who can match Krell physical resilience. The Krell evolved on a Class 6 world, even more extreme than Earth. On Earth's surface, Diane Carter's team finished installing the modified shields on the last defense platform. The Krell weapons had already pierced the outer defensive line. Explosions lit up the upper atmosphere as debris from destroyed ships burned on entry. "Shields failing on sectors 3 through 7, Samantha reported in the command center. "Krell ground forces will break through in minutes." "Deploy the new shields," Paul ordered. Diane activated the system from her station below. The shield energy signature changed from blue to deep purple as her modifications came online. The next Krell blast hit the shield and dissipated. "It's working!" she shouted. In space, the remaining Earth ships rallied behind their flagship, the Defiant. Captain Alan Parker watched as the planet below glowed with the new shield. "All ships target the Krell command vessel," he ordered. Concentrate fire on their main weapon system. The Earth ships moved with unexpected speed and coordination. 3 were destroyed immediately, but the rest pressed forward. The Krell, used to enemies who retreated after initial losses, seemed momentarily confused by the human tactics. On their homeworld, the Krell Supreme Commander hissed in frustration. These Earth creatures do not break. They fight harder when wounded. They are Deathworlders, his science officer explained. They evolved assuming constant danger. Like us, the commander realized. But they are untested in galactic war. They will fall. But as the battle continued, Earth's forces held their ground. The planet's harsh conditions, its gravity, atmosphere, and geological activity actually hindered the Krell ground forces who landed. They had expected an easy victory and found instead a world as hostile as their own, defended by creatures perfectly adapted to its dangers. By the time Confederation reinforcements arrived, the Krell attack had been repelled. Not without cost, millions had died, cities lay in ruins, but Earth remained free. And the galaxy witnessed something remarkable. The Deathworld humans had proven themselves worthy opponents to the mighty Krell. The war, however, had only begun. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Marine Sergeant Kevin Russell stood in a training room aboard the Confederation battleship Unity. 20 aliens from different species watched him with a mixture of fear and respect. Today, we practice close combat techniques, Kevin announced. When shipboard weapons fail, you must be prepared to defend yourselves. A tall, long-limbed Teresian raised a hand. Sergeant, our species are not built for physical confrontation like humans. Kevin smiled, patiently. That's why we're adapting Earth military training for your biology. Everyone has strengths we can use. After Earth successfully defended against the Krell attack, the Confederation had quickly established a new military training program. Humans were now highly valued as instructors and combat leaders. Kevin demonstrated a simple takedown move, carefully restraining his strength as he worked with a volunteer. The aliens watched in amazement at his speed and power. He makes it look so easy, one whispered. Their muscles developed under triple our gravity, another replied. Of course, it's easy for him. While Kevin trained the new recruits, Dr. Lisa Bennett worked with alien scientists in another part of the ship. They studied materials from Earth that were rare on other worlds. This simple metal alloy, Lisa explained, holding up a sample, is common on Earth but doesn't exist naturally on most Confederation worlds because of your different geological processes. And it can withstand Krell weapons? Asked a Veldari scientist. When properly processed, yes. Our Deathworld has given us resources as well as physical adaptations. The Confederation was learning that humans had more to offer than just their strength. Earth's harsh conditions had driven them to develop technologies and materials that more peaceful worlds had never needed. On the bridge of the Unity, Captain Frank Howard met with Admiral Zorn of the Confederation fleet. 6 other ship captains joined them via hologram. The Krell have attacked 3 more border worlds, Zorn reported. Their pattern is changing. They seem to be avoiding systems with human defenders. They're adapting their strategy, Frank said, learning our capabilities. Your combat tactics disturb many in the Confederation, said Captain Nev of the cruiser, Starblade. Humans seem willing to sacrifice ships and personnel for tactical advantages. Frank nodded. On Earth, we've fought wars where strategic sacrifices were necessary. We understand that sometimes losses must be accepted to achieve victory. The alien captains exchanged uncomfortable glances. For species from peaceful worlds, the human approach to warfare seemed brutal and cold. There is another matter, Admiral Zorn said hesitantly. Several member species have expressed concern about Earth's growing military presence. They fear that once the Krell threat is eliminated, humans might become problematic. Frank's expression hardened. We're fighting and dying to protect the Confederation. Yes, but you must understand. Never before has a Class 5 Deathworld species joined galactic society. Your natural abilities make you powerful allies, but also potential threats. Before Frank could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The holographic display shifted to show a new Krell attack fleet moving toward the Elysian system, home to one of the Confederation's oldest civilizations. All ships prepare for immediate departure, Admiral Zorn ordered. The Elysians have no significant defenses. Sergeant Kevin Russell led his mixed-species combat team to their stations. As they moved through the corridors, an ensign approached, him with an urgent message. "Sergeant, you're needed in engineering. One of the human technicians discovered something in the Krell weapon fragments." In engineering, Kevin found Diane Carter examining a piece of Krell technology. "Look at these components," she said without looking up. "They're designed for environments far more extreme than Confederation standard. Heat resistance, pressure, tolerance, radiation shielding, all beyond what even humans need. They really are from a worse world than ours," Kevin said quietly. Diane nodded grimly. "And I think I know why they're attacking now. Their world is dying. They're not conquering for power. They're searching for new homes." As the Unity prepared to jump to the Elysian system, tension spread through the ship. The alliance between humans and the Confederation was proving effective against the Krell, but also raising difficult questions. Some Confederation members saw humans as heroes, powerful protectors from a deadly world who could save them from the Krell threat. Others saw them as dangerous primitives whose combat skills made them unpredictable allies at best. What none could deny was that humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. Amy Rodriguez peered through the viewport of her ship, the Stargazer, at the massive Krell battleship floating dead in space. 6 months into the war, the tide had turned against the Confederation. The Krell had pushed deep into Allied territory, conquering or destroying 12 worlds. "Are you sure about this?" asked her first officer, Steve Juarez. "If they detect us, they won't," Amy replied. "Their sensors are damaged from the battle. The Confederation fleet had fought the Krell here yesterday and lost badly. 23 ships destroyed against just 3 Krell vessels disabled. Amy had volunteered to investigate one of the crippled enemy ships. "Moving in closer," she said, guiding the Stargazer toward a damaged section of the Krell vessel. Amy had risen quickly through the ranks during the war. Her experience working on alien ships made her valuable, and humans were now given command positions throughout the fleet. She was determined to discover why the Krell were so difficult to defeat. "I'm picking up strange readings," Steve said. "The hull material? It's unlike anything in our database." Amy nodded. "Send the scans to Dr. Bennett and prepare a boarding team." An hour later, Amy led a team of 4 humans in environmental suits through the silent corridors of the Krell ship. The air was thin and hot, the gravity crushing even by Earth standards. "This feels like 2 times Earth normal," gasped Steve, struggling to move forward. "No wonder other species can't fight them effectively," Amy replied. Only Deathworlders could function in these conditions. They reached what appeared to be the ship's bridge. Dead Krell lay at their stations, massive insectoid forms still imposing even in death. Amy moved to what looked like a navigation computer. "Look at these star charts," she said. "They're mapping habitable worlds, but with specific parameters." Steve joined her. "Those conditions, they're even more extreme than Earth." "Class 6, Amy whispered. "They're looking for a new Class 6 Deathworld." Back on Earth, Admiral Paul Wright faced the combined military council of the Confederation. The meeting room was tense, filled with representatives from 30 species. "The situation is critical," said Counselor Mira of the Trill. "We've lost control of the Antares sector. The Krell will reach our core worlds within weeks." Paul stood before the holographic display showing the front lines. Red dominated the map, with only small patches of blue remaining. "We need a new strategy," he said. "Conventional warfare isn't working. Your human battle tactics have failed," accused Representative Zorn. "The sacrifices you deemed acceptable have cost us dearly." "No," Paul replied firmly. "We're fighting the wrong way. We're trying to match the Krell ship for ship, when we should be using our understanding of their weakness." He activated a new display showing data from Amy Rodriguez's mission. The Krell evolved on a Class 6 Deathworld, even more extreme than Earth. But their homeworld is dying, becoming too hostile even for them. They're seeking new worlds with similar conditions where they can relocate their population. Dr. Lisa Bennett stepped forward. We've analyzed their biology. The Krell are perfectly adapted to extreme conditions, but they lack something humans, developed on Earth. What's that? Asked Counselor Mira. Adaptability, Lisa explained. Humans evolved on a world with changing seasons, varied climates, and shifting conditions. We learned to adapt. The Krell evolved for one specific extreme environment, Paul nodded. We don't need to outfight them. We need to attack their homeworld in a way that exploits this weakness. The room fell silent. Then Representative Zorn spoke quietly. You want to strike directly at the Krell homeworld? Impossible. Their defenses would destroy any fleet before it arrived. Not a fleet, Paul said. A small team. A strike force of humans. Deathworlders who can survive the conditions there. The plan took shape over the next hours. Marine Sergeant Kevin Russell would lead a team of specially trained human soldiers. Engineer Diane Carter would develop weapons, designed to trigger a specific type of environmental change on the Krell world. And Amy Rodriguez, with her knowledge of Krell ships, would get them there. It was a desperate plan, one that other species considered suicidal. But for humans from Earth, the mission seemed challenging yet possible. After all, they had evolved on a deadly world that had prepared them for exactly this kind of mission. As Kevin's team began training in Earth's most extreme environments, desert, Arctic, volcanic regions, they embraced their Deathworld heritage. The very conditions that had shaped humanity into resilient survivors would now be their greatest weapon against the Krell. The galaxy was about to witness what Earth's children could truly do. The captured Krell ship moved silently through space, approaching the massive red planet that was the Krell homeworld. Inside, Sergeant Kevin Russell and his team of 12 humans checked their equipment one last time. Remember, we'll have 30 minutes at most once we land, Kevin said. The gravity will be crushing, the air barely breathable even with our gear. Amy Rodriguez sat at the controls, her face tense with concentration. Disguising their ship had been her idea, using the damaged Krell vessel they had studied to slip past the planet's defenses. 5 minutes to entry, she announced. All systems functioning normally. Diane Carter made final adjustments to the device they called the Catalyst. It looked simple, just a metal cylinder with a control panel, but it had taken Earth's best scientists months to create. The planet's core is already unstable, she explained. This will accelerate the process, triggering massive geological activity. The humans didn't speak much after that. Each was lost in their own thoughts. They weren't just fighting for Earth now, but for dozens of worlds that couldn't fight for themselves. Species who evolved on gentle planets had never developed the strength or resilience needed to face the Krell. The ship entered the atmosphere buffeted by winds stronger than any hurricane on Earth. The temperature rose dangerously. Even through their protective suits, the humans felt the oppressive heat. This is what a Class 6 Deathworld feels like, Lisa Bennett whispered. She had insisted on joining the mission, her knowledge of Krell biology deemed essential. The landing was rough. Amy kept the ship intact, but warning lights flashed across every control panel. We have damage to the engines, she reported. We'll need to repair them before we can leave. Outside, the landscape was like a vision of hell. The sky burned red, lightning flashing constantly through clouds of toxic gas. The ground shook with frequent earthquakes. In the distance, massive insectoid forms moved through a city of strange angular buildings. Move out, Kevin ordered. His voice was strained from the effort of speaking under the crushing gravity. The team split as planned. Kevin led half the group toward the central hive structure where Krell leadership was located. Diane and Lisa took the other half toward a massive fissure in the planet's crust, the perfect place to plant the catalyst. They moved slowly under the immense gravity. Each step required tremendous effort. Even for humans accustomed to Earth's heavy pull, this world was at the limit of what their bodies could handle. Krell patrols moved past them several times. The disguised thermal suits and the natural camouflage designed by Lisa kept them hidden. The Krell never expected enemies could survive on their world, so their security focused outward, not inward. At the fissure, Diane carefully placed the catalyst while Lisa and 2 others stood guard. Device active, Diane reported through the comm system. We have 20 minutes to reach extraction. Meanwhile, Kevin's team had reached the central hive. Using weapons designed to work in the extreme conditions, they created a diversion that drew Krell forces away from their path. Inside the structure, they planted communication devices that would broadcast an ultimatum to the Krell leadership. Withdraw from Confederation space or watch their homeworld tear itself apart. The mission had nearly succeeded when a patrol discovered them. In the firefight that followed, 2 humans fell to Krell weapons. Kevin and the others fought desperately, their earthborn strength their only advantage. Fall, back to the ship, Kevin ordered. The ground beneath them shuddered violently as the catalyst began its work. Massive earthquakes rocked the planet, stronger than anything even the Krell had experienced before. Buildings toppled around them as they ran. Both teams converged on the ship where Amy had completed emergency repairs. As they lifted off, they watched the Krell world convulsing below them. Not destroyed, humanity had chosen not to commit genocide, but changed forever. The delicate balance that even the highly adapted Krell depended on was disrupted. 3 days later, the Krell leadership sent a message to the Confederation. They would withdraw and seek a new homeworld in uninhabited space. The war was over. In the peace that followed, Earth took its place as a full and respected member of the galactic community. Humans were both admired and feared, creatures from a world so harsh that it had prepared them to face the galaxy's greatest threats. On Earth, a new Confederation Academy opened its doors, welcoming students from across the stars. Most struggled with the gravity, the weather, the diverse environments, but they came anyway, determined to learn the lessons that only a Deathworld could teach. And across the galaxy, when new worlds were discovered and classified, none ever matched the reputation of Earth. The Class 5 Deathworld whose children had saved the Confederation.